This ancient river redgum has seen it all. Its gnarled trunk and ponderous branches reflect a long and arduous history. A story of adversity and resilience. One day, its offspring might rival its grandeur in this landscape. But to get there, they must face decades of attack and disturbance, and in the process become hosts to thousands upon thousands of lives. Each tree, a life for others to orbit around. Eucalypts seem to be everywhere in Australia. Our mountains, our deserts, our low-lying floodplains. Their continued abundance on the continent has seen them become a vital part of its ecosystems. But this abundance belies the true struggle each individual plant must face on their journey to adulthood and beyond. This river gum seedling won't be mature enough to flower for another decade. After that time, it could do so every year for the next 5 centuries. It could become a fountain of nutritious nectar in a land where resources can be scarce, or a boarding house for countless animals and their children. But first, it must grow. Of all the places to start out in life, Australia's deserts must be among the harshest. But eucalypts out here have come up with a solution. Safe inside these woody fruits are seeds full of nutrients, vital for a eucalypt's start in life. This parting gift of precious resources is one of the few things a parent eucalypt can do to aid their offspring's survival. In harsh environments where resources are less available to young trees, it can mean giving more of yourself to ensure your young have a chance at a future. This young mallee eucalypt has a long, hard slog ahead of it in an unforgiving landscape, but it's been given the best shot by a generous mother. Even in relatively fertile environments, the early life of a eucalypt is bound to be a struggle. Adults can drop tens of thousands of seeds, yet not all seeds will germinate, and of those that do, most will not make it to adulthood. This stand of river gum seedlings cannot remain like this indefinitely. In time, water stress, disease, insect attack, or a combination of all three will thin the stand. This could go on for decades, until this seedling's nearest neighbour is at a more comfortable distance. As a eucalypt reaches adulthood, the shape that it takes as it grows reflects a combination of genes and environment. Some species are well known for their towering height or sprawling growth habits. but there is remarkable flexibility within species. As it grows, a eucalypt's form will respond to the prevailing conditions. The competition for light leads to tall, thin strands, with each tree reaching for its share of the sun. Some bend and contour their trunks out of the shadows, while others become permanently windswept, frozen that way by relentless alpine gusts. The growth form of each individual tree reflects the journey they have taken to adulthood, their past challenges and triumphs moulded into the forms that we see today. All this complexity, this curving and jutting, provides something crucial to Australian ecosystems: habitat. Animals need somewhere to live, and a motley adult eucalypt can be home to hundreds of species at any one moment. Many trees possess hidden worlds just beneath their bark. Harlequin bugs take shelter in their hundreds. Social huntsman spiders await their next meal. A marbled gecko scrambles for its prey. Back in the daylight, other animals are making the most of the habitat eucalypts provide. This willy wagtail returns to her cup nest, made mostly of spider webs gathered from the surrounding area. She's built it into an old river gum. Sheltered from the winds and with plenty of food nearby, she seems quite content. But while the willy wagtail is able to build its nest wherever it can find a suitable branch, many Australian animals have more particular nesting requirements.
Every other vegetated continent has what's called primary hollow nesters, woodpeckers, animals that excavate holes, make them, maintain them, use them, and then everything else uses them afterwards. Australia doesn't. And we've got all these different animals that rely on hollows in trees. Bats, frogs, ducks, birds, the list is as long as your arm. And they're all reliant on existing hollows in trees. And eucalypts, they make them. They make them themselves. They shed branches. There's a collar of cells around a branch that abscise that branch. Branch falls off for whatever reason. It's not pulling its weight. That then is a source of infection for fungus, for termites, for nasties. They get in there, gobble up that dead wood, and hey presto, a hollow. And hollows now are worth their weight in gold because they're in big trees. Those big trees don't just grow that way overnight. And so there's, in many parts of Australia, there's not nearly as many hollows as there were 100 years ago or a couple of hundred years ago. And so just think of it from a housing point of view. There's all these first home buyers out there and almost no homes for them.
This lack of hollows means competition for good real estate can be fierce. Sometimes you have to settle for second best, and this can mean doing some renovations. Using his tail to anchor himself, this kookaburra puts his powerful bill to work, preparing this hollow for nesting. The habitat provided by eucalypts can extend beyond the trees themselves. They provide shade and shelter to the forest floor around them. This young echidna can forage safely among the fallen leaf litter. Naturally, many Australian animals rely on eucalypts not just for habitat, but for food as well. These crystalline structures house hungry psyllid bugs as they feed on this eucalypt leaf. Most birds and mammals find eucalypt leaves distasteful, or even poisonous. They're tough and full of toxins. Yet for one mammal, it's practically all they eat. Koalas are synonymous with gum leaves. They have specialised digestive systems which allow them to metabolise their food very slowly. This helps them extract as much nutrition as possible from this lacklustre diet. But a slow metabolism comes with a catch. It means koalas can sleep up to 18 hours a day. Well, maybe it's not such a bad thing. But not all eucalypt foragers are as sluggish as koalas. On the opposite end of the metabolic spectrum are those that feed on the sugar-rich nectar produced by eucalypt flowers. And none have taken to this food source quite like the aptly named honey eaters. Their high metabolic rates demand constant refuelling. A single flower could be visited between 10 to 20 times a day. Few forest-forming tree species are pollinated by birds, but eucalypts welcome all comers. In doing so, they ensure a greater chance of cross-pollinating with other plants, while they do their best to protect their vital leaves. Eucalypts actively create this intoxicating nectar to attract as many Australian animals as possible. But these reoccurring sources of sugar are worth protecting. Red wattlebirds are the biggest honey eaters on the mainland, and they don't take kindly to having their flowers pilfered. A short break for these New Holland honey eaters, and then back to it. So many flowers, so little time. These pollinated flowers will become fruits filled with seeds, creating a whole new source of food for Australian wildlife, and producing the next generation of eucalypts. The long history of eucalypts on the Australian continent has allowed time for these intimate relationships with animals to evolve. And it has also provided time for other plants to adapt and make the most of the eucalypt bounty.
People have heard of mistletoe. People often assume it's a European thing, like blackbirds and foxes and willows. There is mistletoe in Europe. There's also mistletoe in Australia. They're not necessarily the same thing. Mistletoes are a way of being a plant, like a mangrove or a succulent. A mistletoe is a parasitic plant that does its parasitism up in the canopy of trees. And Australia has 91 different kinds of mistletoe. So we've got a real diversity of them, from little tiny ones to the biggest mistletoe of all, the West Australian Christmas tree. From a gum tree's point of view, mistletoes are a bad thing. It's like you getting a tick. A mistletoe makes a living by taking from the host. So mistletoes latch onto the plumbing, the vascular system of the tree, take all their water and all the nutrients dissolved in that water, and then grow from that. Context matters in all of biology, but from a mistletoe and a gum tree's point of view, one tree in the middle of a forest or one tree in the middle of a paddock, it's a very different context. And you would have seen this. Driving along, there's a tree, shade tree, covered in mistletoe. That's a problem. There's more mistletoe on that tree than that tree can support. It's sapping the vigor of that tree. And the reason how that situation came to be, the normal things that will control mistletoe aren't operating. So most people understand that fire is a natural part of the Australian ecosystem. And eucalypts have a whole range of adaptations to deal with fire. Mistletoes don't. A fire comes through, even a low-level fire comes through, their leaves get all crispy, they die. They've got no defences against fire at all. So just the occasional fire creeping through the bush knocks out most of the mistletoes. So when you're walking in the bush and you don't see any mistletoes, that's part of the story. Another controlling factor is possums, brush-tailed possums especially. They go out of their way to eat mistletoe. They love the leaves. And just think about it, just try chewing on a gum leaf. It's disgusting. It's full of nasties, and those nasties are evolved toxins to taste like crap to stop things eating them. Mistletoes don't care. They don't invest nearly as heavily in their leaves. They grow them, they use them, they drop them in a few months rather than a few years that eucalypts hang on to them. So mistletoes get gobbled up by possums. In many parts of the bush, where there's a few possums, where there's the odd fire, mistletoes are scarce. You've got to work hard to see them. Take the fire away, take the possums away, and you've removed two of the most important controlling mechanisms, and then mistletoe grows and it goes bananas. And so that explains in roadside stands, in paddock trees, look at all that mistletoe. That's the story, that's the mechanism. So that's the deal from an individual tree's point of view, neutral to bad to sometimes fatal. If we pull back and think about the effect of mistletoe on the overall woodland, it's actually a different story. And we see that as parasites that absorb nutrients from their long-lived host and then release it, think of them like a leaky tap, that they're a constant source of nutrients, of water, of goodies that are locked up in this long-lived woody plant, and they're releasing it to the wider community. So if you scrabble around underneath an infected tree, it's different, it's mulchy, it sounds different, it looks different, there's different insects there, and we've got good information now that insectivorous birds, antechinus, lizards, they gravitate towards those patches because they're full of food.
Throughout their lives, adult eucalypts offer a vast number of opportunities for other plants and animals to exploit. But even in death, their value in our ecosystems does not end. As a eucalypt grows, it must be able to cope with Australia's harsh environments, as well as the many challenges it will face from other organisms. During its adult life, it will be a home and a source of food for countless living creatures. Like this ancient river red gum, it will play a vital role in Australia's ecological and cultural landscape.